Okay, here we go. um, Being a little scattered, perhaps a little schizophrenic here. One day I'm talking about the IRR and risk premiums and hopefully get into terminal values, and the next day I'm talking about the mechanics of a project finance model, and that's what this video is going to be. It's going to be more on project finance modeling. Now, I am really not sure exactly how this is going to turn out, but I am going to tell you my objectives, and I want to be very clear about my objectives. I'm going to, in the website, so you can follow this, and then I'll post the files. If I don't post them right away, please, I'll post them soon. I do a lot of my work sitting in an economy seat. Now, my first objective of doing this is to work through some some issues that I haven't finished. Here's making a model from a blank sheet, and I couldn't find the file I've got to, working through the timelines that I've gone through, counting on your fingers, making it a little more advanced. I've got one more thing to do with the levelized cost, but at least I got something done on that. And now I'm going to talk about funding of construction and then a cash flow waterfall. I find the cash flow waterfall probably a lot more interesting when we can put the Monte Carlo in, but I want to go through the funding of construction now. The primary reason I'm doing this is because of this company called Redcliffe, who had me make an online class 8 hours a day. I woke up at 3 in the morning. Modeling class. They refused to make a video, and the poor students, some of them were pissed off, rightfully so. They couldn't get a video, and I probably digressed a little bit. And, they wanted a little more structure, I'm sure. While in the process, I had this online class that I hate. I've got to admit, I hate to do that. I'm going to do a few of our classes for very short periods and very specific subjects, and I'm not going to charge you £1,200 like Redcliffe did for this 25 people, and they give me a couple thousand maybe. Okay. So the first objective is just to document step by step what to do and have a full documentation. I've done this before, but this time I'm trying to hit some of the more tricky issues. That's objective number one. Okay? Objective number two is when I made this exercise, and I'm not even going to use this file, unfortunately. I'll probably get in trouble for that. Excuse me for that. I'm going to use a real case. A blank case, perhaps. Maybe people will like that better. For me, this funding of construction is just not the big deal anyway. Whenever I do that one, I make a little example. I make my little UDF example. I have my little fee example. And I show, the iteration, you just can't use this. Any suggestion whatsoever that you can use this iteration button in the circular references and do some things that somebody taught you in some class where you zero out some things and redo them and have a dereffing. There's a word. It's even dereffing or something. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And goal seeks don't work, and you can't do anything interesting with sculpting. Oh my gosh, I could go on and on and on. So then I, of course, show the copy and paste and how that ruins the model. You can't, do any analysis with the model. You have to put a button in. It freaks people out. It can, not necessarily, but it can slow down the model, and it can, it can kind of create a little cancer in the models. So then I go to the UDF and show you, we can do this little UDF thing, and it solves everything, and it's beautiful, and it's elegant. And then as I'm teaching the class, I say, forget that UDF stuff. It's not real. Auditors are going to complain. It's a little bit clunky to get into your models. Don't worry about it. I just showed you that kind of for fun. And I'm sick of that. This time I am totally sick of that. I'm going to do it for real for once. For one time in my life and in future classes, I'm going to show you, no, it's easy to put this stuff in. We've worked on it since the pandemic started, getting it easy to use, and more importantly, getting it really so it can handle all the complicated sculpting of multiple dead issues with curve sculpting, with limits on if you've got a negative repayment, you're not going to allow that, with all sorts of fancy little tweaks and different methods on the sculpting side and solving all the uh, uh, funding. And for once, I want to do it for real, not just BS and not just some okay long video. This is going to say, no, it's easy to do. You plop it in. Here's how we do it. We're going to do it from scratch, and I'm going to show it to you. So that's my second objective. Okay. And of course, in this Redcliffe class, I showed that little example and then did this typical thing. You're going to have to use copy and paste anyway. Okay. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to say be radical because it makes some sense. And then the third thing, perhaps the most important, is this business that I've already introduced. Okay, and I've already rambled on a long time too much in that horrible nightmare class. I really do have nightmares about it. Some man said, "Stop talking, just get to the Excel." Okay, okay. In this one that I opened, I'm not going to open. We could make a model that has either. I made a little drop-down box here, and that either does structuring or risk analysis. And then you always had to press a circular button, click this one, click another circular one every time. Okay. And the UDF is going to solve this. And that's really the exciting part. And the exciting part for me is not even the Excel here. And I'm for all those fancy people who do their fast modeling and all those goddamn whatever Mazars, you're going to be pissed off, and I don't give a crap. The way you should do a model is think about the user. Think about a bank as a user now, and think about how a transaction really, really works. And here's how a transaction works. You have a financial close date. I call that your engagement date, where you make all your stupid promises. I'm going to love you forever and all that. You have that date, and you set the debt structure, the debt repayment, the debt size on that date. And then you go into the actual case, just like your actual life. Nothing really works the way you promised. And you have actuals and you have risks. And the CFADS that we use to size the debt, cash flow available for debt service, is never what it's actually going to be. It's going to be all different. And so the banks want to take that debt size that you established, that you did in structuring your structuring. There are even people at the bank called people work in a structuring department and a risk analysis department. And there's a very interesting and important relationship between those, because the structuring people need to understand the risks, and the risk people are really, really important. And we want to make the model. And if you make a separate input S, an input C page, input C, input S, for structuring, and a separate input C and input S for risk analysis, and then do a simple little UDF, your UDF is going to set the debt size, and you're going to do it all automatically. Once you've done the debt size, you move to the structuring, the risk analysis rather. You put all your downsides. I mean, you're going to even put a Monte Carlo in. You do your cash flow waterfalls. You put your sweeps in, your cash traps, your use of a debt service account, whether it's a cash reserve account or not. You put all that stuff in, you push the cash flow up and down, you may put some volatility in the cash flow, but that's all with fixed debt. And if you use the UDF, there's no button to press. You just have one thing to set the debt size where all the circular references happen. Once you've set the debt size, the circular references are basically gone. Not perhaps every single one. We'll talk about delays in construction and all that. So that's where I'm going. Those three things, and I know what's going to happen. I'm going to have to end up making a couple of videos about this, and I don't even know where to start. I wanted to kind of start with the cash flow waterfall, but I'm not. I'm going to start with the construction funding, and I'm going to start with a case that actually has this in. So I'm going to now move to the Excel, and in the Excel, now I'm doing something for Kenny Whitlaw, who is behind all the fast, who'd never ever watch a video of mine anyway, so I don't have to worry about saying bad things about him, and I'm not. I'm going to say good things about him. I like to have beers with him, and, well, not too many. I'm too old. I can't drink beers in the mall anymore, really. I used to be able to. God, I got to take this finding. Some call them away. Here, this page, okay, let's put a little top thing. This is going to be our structuring page for our input S. How many? 4. Okay, why I do this all the time? That's okay, because maybe, just maybe, I think maybe somebody will actually use this thing because I wasted all this time on it. Okay, now after we do this, and it's taking too long. Shit. Okay, so please don't worry. I'm not going to do any more generic macros. Please don't worry about the some of this stuff I'm going to do, and I'm going to go through kind of the fundamentals without any of this new stuff, which I consider so important. Splitting risk analysis and structuring, number one, really, really important, and doing that in an elegant, smooth, beautiful way. And then putting this UDF. Now, this UDF, it runs it's not a macro, it's a function, user-defined function, and I can turn it off. So right now, I'm turning it off. Actually, when I'm turning it off, it's running it. And that was kind of interesting because it took longer. It took a lot longer when I was running it on with the record button on than it would have otherwise. That's okay. It really did. Now, what I'm going to do is this page is, you see it says input C for structuring. And then there's an input S with all of our interest rates, and I want to do the generic macros, but I'm not, with all our assumptions that we're going to use in order to establish these cases. Now, when we establish these cases, I use an index function. Okay, whoops, over here we have an index function. And I have a P50 case, and a P90 is 1 minus the P50 case, 1% for the P99 case, a debt to capital case, a case with different methods of sculpting, and I put 4 different debt issues in. These are not real. I put different tenors for the debt in. I put different percentages in. We put different interest rates in. We put different fees in. This is all a little more complicated structuring. And when I see people kind of try to get this resolved, it's kind of amazing. So why I put the capital expenditures here already. Now I also did something else. Excuse me. Okay. That was kind of an idiot. Yeah, I meant to turn off. Well, that was good. So I don't want to run this circular reference resolving thing every single time. So I'm going to turn it off so I can do all of our analysis without it. Okay, and uh, um, actually I think that they ran a little faster that time, didn't it? Okay, and for each one of these, I'll do it with this. I said, okay, when we're going to fund our capex, we're going to put in a S curve code. I suppose this kind of should have been okay in a different section, whatever. And I'm not. Okay, and so we might want to put some different uh, uh, things in here. And for now, I'm not going to, I've gone through this a lot, but every time we have an input S thing, I suggest putting the option, at least for a code number in. And then when we do this, I'll just press Control D. Okay, I didn't even have to select it. So we take the index. And then what I want to do is I want to copy this to applied case, and then I want to, in a summary page, be able to change some of these things around. So I want to, we might want to change for example, here I've got a sculpting method. And and do I have two sculpting methods? I hope not. We have some different DSCRs. So this sculpting method, basically, we could either use the DSCR to size the debt, or we could establish the size of the debt, and then once we establish the size of the debt, we could either hold a flat DSCR to kind of resolve things, or have a curved DSCR. A curved DSCR is number 3. I'm going to put a 2 here. That's a flat DSCR. Okay, and a debt to capital we don't really care about. I'll put 1. Well, I'll put 2. Okay, so there are different ways to size the debt, and I've already kind of messed this up. But what we might want to do is we might want to put a little spinner box. That's what I was trying to show you, and we might want to change these codes or change any of these things. So we have this index, and then we're going to make the simplest macro you can almost imagine, which takes the column, and look at it. It says take the index, take and make that into an applied. Just copy and paste. That's how easy it is. You just press this, and then it just copies and pastes it for you. And I hope. Oh, I didn't do this. Okay, of course. Let's do this one. Okay, and so if I just press this restructure, this is from an index. This is fixed. We could put a little dropped, whatever, a checkbox in here. Okay, so that's a little bit of background on the assumptions. Then in the for the structuring here, I could put the code for the S curve. Now, what I'm doing right now, and this is really important, is the now of course I'll just put it here, and then I'm not going to put an index number in for now. We'll just use the S curve, and I've got a whole bunch of different interest rates, and this is our applied interest rates. And if you're kind of fancy, I'd almost select this area, put a little true, and when you're using the interest rate that you've selected, it should be a credit spread plus a SOF or whatever in the hell you call that, interest rate, and we've got it set up. Now here's the issue. Let's say that I'm going to turn on the UDF. That means we're going to size the debt based on one of these cases. And we could do all kind of fancy sizing, and that's the complicated part of a model. There's no question about that. So now that UDF is turned on. So if I would change anything here, let's change the case from, let's put the uh-oh. Oh, shoot. Hang on. I've got to look at this. I've got to fix this. Let's make this case number be case number 1. And then let's reset the structure of the model. And what happens is then all these circular references are being resolved. They're all being resolved. And you're sizing the debt and coming up with a repayment. We're going to show you exactly how that works, okay? And I'm not going to go through the boring kind of inputs for the UDF right now, even though they're very, very easy. Okay, but then we're going to have another scenario. If you noticed, I had a problem with my stupid little drop-down box, but maybe then I want to take this debt size and use a base case against this debt size, or I want to use a downside case. And here is the key. Do you notice that the UDF is not running? The size of the debt has been established, and you're putting the risk parameters, the things you might want to change, the volatility of the cash flows or the variation, a downside cash flow, a downside degradation, all of that stuff you're going to put in a second input C file, and then you're going to also have another input S file with perhaps actuals for the S curves and all sorts of other things. So we split the whole model up. Now you can say, these models already have so many sheets, but no, it's okay, it's logical. And now I'm going to work on structuring the model, and we're going to work on the we're going to work a little bit on the issues associated with funding and circular references. And basically, I should have said there's a fourth reason I'm making this video, and the fourth reason is, I'm sick of doing these little models so much. How many thousands have I done? Okay, let's put our CapEx here. And let's start with that. And so what we're going to do is work through a sources and uses of funds. We're going to make kind of a summary fund. We'll show you how to use a copy and paste. We'll show you how to set it up. And then we'll put the repayment of the debt in and kind of get our structuring done. And then after that, we'll be finished with the structuring that we'll take, by the way. There's a little thing called the UDF output page here. And I changed my whole philosophy. Now you can get all the details, so many different reports. You can basically have a whole model be printed out, but for this, I'm just putting the amount of the debt from the repayment. I'm just putting the repayments, and I'm putting the repayments for the different issues. Oops. I don't know what happened there just now. What happened there? Okay. This is part of the code. That wasn't supposed to happen. Okay. Don't worry, I'm not going to edit that out either, okay? And by the way, this is where we did the structuring of the debt, and I need to make some videos on walking through the sculpting process with multiple debt issues, where you want all the issues to be sculpted, or some of the issues to be sculpted, some others not. You want changing interest rates. You want a changing DSCR perhaps, and fixing the debt. You want to have different tenors for the different debt obligations. These are the complicated things, and these are the things I address in that in the UDF. So let's start. And I finally So this is supposed to be a kind of model from scratch, like some of the Redcliffe people were asking for. And let's put our, let's just here put our total capex. Now in the other file, I kind of tried to go through some of the key operating parameters, and you should always show the in a solar the capex per kW and battery cost per kWh, all that stuff. We'll put the S curve in, so I'm not doing that right now. I'm just working through the mechanics, if I can spell. And then we'll put the periodic capex. Okay. Now, I put a development cost and a development fee. Screw that for now. Okay, and that's very important. I need a whole. I've talked about that too much, and I get too off track. I've got a whole chapter in a book about that. It's absolutely crucial, but I'm not doing it right now. Okay, and let's get the so here I put in the mol units and the constant units. So if we have a capex, well, this is again. Sorry, it's not my mol actually. I would never put things in thousands. I would always put everything in just euros, but whatever. And this, so we're going to have a percent here, and this is going to be the same for both of them. But it's possible that when we pull something from this, now this is still the structuring model. Okay, so this is confusing, and some people are going to say, "What? You're full of shit." When we're finished, if it works the way I think it will, we can put in actuals, and we are always going to take it from this applied case, so we can put a spinner box next to it and do all that business. Okay, and for now, I'm just gonna put our thing in, and I have the Shift Control R ready, and then the S. So if this unit you took was, I don't know, in euros instead of in thousands of euros, you could just put euros here, and then you could divide that by 1,000, whatever. So you can. I don't know if this is the best way to do this. Who knows? Who cares? That kind of stuff is just ridiculous. And then we have a construction flag. Now, when we have a construction flag, we're going to take that from the input S. And what I didn't do is I didn't put a 0 here. And we should, because this is the period before construction. And you can see I'm just kind of doing this as we go along. So I'm just for now going to take that S curve, and as usual, what we can do here is put our construction period. Now again, yeah, this is just so we don't really have a constant here, so we're just going to put that as a counter. And I wouldn't put this in another page. I have talked to people get all irritated and frustrated. Now I put the construction flag already because I had a whole video on this. Okay, so we have a construction period going up, and then we put a lookup. Okay, and we need this construction period, and then we can go to the input S for the structuring and just grab this. Okay, so I'm just going to do this. Now in the real world, you'd have all these different Shift Control P, you'd have all these different things, and then we'll put a Shift Control V for Victor. And I didn't multiply this by the construction flag, which I should have done, because sometimes what happens is you get some stuff at the end. You can see how important the sum function is. And then we can put our periodic capex in, and this time we only really have this one. And so we'll just multiply this out, and that's our starting point. And okay, and I'll put Shift Control V. And then now up here, let's get a summary sources and uses of funds. Now this is a little bit repetitive. I've done this a lot, but this time it's going to be a little different because we're going to have we're going to have multiple different debt issues, and we're not going to be intimidated by that, and we're going to structure them neatly. But we'll start with just our, and I'm going to put this in our old constant column here, and we've got just only a summary. And I didn't put this down here. I'm not sure the alternate equal would work there. If you go all the way up here, maybe it would. And I put it in the wrong place. Okay, and then we have our total. You don't have to do this, obviously. I think it's enormously useful. And now let's put our sources of funds, but we've got some things, and this is why I used that column up here. We have our okay. Maybe here's okay. Maybe I'm going to put our total debt here first. Okay. Now this one I'm using an example where everything's set with a debt to capital ratio, so I'm going to get the debt to capital from here. Okay, we can change this later on and show you. Okay, we might want to size. We might want to size the debt with the cash flow, which would be perhaps more common. But for now, I'm just going to get started. So I'm going to take our total capex and multiply it by the debt to capital. Should I put a decimal here or not? I guess I won't. And then we can do the same thing with, we're going to allocate that debt, and that's going to kind of be the key. And this is the real world. You can say, and I suppose if somebody says, no, we got one fixed debt and the rest we're going to allocate, well, then you could put these percentages anyway. You know, it might be a little different. Okay, and so we're going to take our total debt. I'll just press the F4 and multiply it by our percentages. And then our equity is just the total project cost minus the debt. Now we could put grants in here. We could do all sorts of different things, and or we could get fancier and say, no, not all of the debt might be here. We got to be careful with subordinated debt. Kind of, do we call that equity? And what do we have if we take the equity and split the equity into shareholder debt and an equity bridge loan? There are all sorts of interesting things, but I'm just, my idea here is to not get too off track, okay? And maybe so that's our starting point. All right, and then, and maybe perhaps we could have accumulated all this, but what I do next is I take our uses of funds, and then I said, okay, let's take our uses of funds and go down here and call them, and you notice I didn't fill in any of these, and I'm going to call them funding needs. Now, I have wanted to do this for a long time, and the pain, the pain of actually working through different debt issues is just too much for me, really, okay? But this time I'm going to do it, okay? And I'm going to put funding needs. And after I'm going to switch the video off when we put this. And the big thing is for me is to set it up like this. Now, of course, I didn't do this. I saw how other people do this, and I don't think it's all that common to actually set this summary statement up, and you certainly don't have to, but it's for me very convenient. Now there could have been all sorts of other capex in here, we'll put our sums in here. The sums here are going to be really important because we're going to take these sums here and start to backfill. And when we start to backfill up to these different issues, we're going to have some circular reference problems. Okay, and because we're going to have to keep going down and down and down instead of up and naturally, we're going to have to go down to get these because we don't know what these are until we've kind of gone through the debt balances. Okay, and so we don't have any of these yet, but we can get the total funding needs. What happens if I press alternate? Alternate equal did work. Sorry about that. So this time we're kind of doing the same thing here, but we're doing it period by period. Okay? And this time, instead of, what I normally do in a class and what I did for our famous Redcliffe class that I'll never do again, is I put a little simple example of funding and how you have circular references arising. But this time I'm just going to do the circular reference. It's just too easy. I mean, the copy and paste, just too easy. We'll do it with a real case. Why not? Okay. And then we've got to decide. Okay, once we have this, this is our funding. Funding needs, and then let's go down and put our funding sources. Okay, and I'm waiting to see when I can turn off the video, or perhaps I'll just do this. And in general, what you need to do is think about how you can call it en français on the cascade, the waterfall, cascade. That's the name for a waterfall in French. And really, there's a cash flow waterfall for the funding. Who pays first, who pays second, who pays third. And it's kind of really, when you think conceptually, it's opposite. The equity gets the cash flow last after the cash flow starts coming in. But when we need the cash flow, the equity better put it in first to make sure it's there. Now, of course, you can have pro rata, but for now, let's start with our equity. And then there could be a grant that's off the top, or there could be some debt that's before the equity. There could be anything, and you just have to set your model up in the order of the way things really work. And it's not very complicated. And if you take your time, use a little balance to see how much funding is taken up, has left over. It's like a cash sweep, really, and how much is left over. Then you can work through these things. So let's put our equity commitments here. And then I've gotten used to this, and I know I've seen people do this much more, in kind of one line and be fancier. But what I want to do is put less the equity that's committed. See, I can't. Oh, we'll run the spell check later. And then we put a net equity remaining. I'll call this remaining equity. And the reason you need that, the reason that's so desperately important, is because you're going to use that with a minimum function. And I can't get over using positive numbers, so I can do minimum and maximums more easily. And then we put an opening equity, and then we put add the equity draws. And that's the key thing. And I have no problem. That's the minimum of the funding needs or the remaining. So you can see why that was so necessary, and then you can just put a closing balance. Now, the reason you need to put this closing balance here, and This one you really could have just done kind of in one go. You didn't need it, but whatever. Is the opening balance is the closing balance, and that's this equity that's already committed. Okay, so let's do that. And we're going to go ahead and do that even if we're going to use the pro rata. So let's put our equity commitment. Now this is something where perhaps my friend, really seriously, my friend Kenny would say, no, you can't do that. But we got this equity commitment here, okay? And we're just going to use that. So we needed that summary statement to kind of get started. And I just press F4 and just leave it flat, the whole thing. I used to multiply it by the construction period and everything else. And then you go down to the line 72, which is the opening balance. And then you say, well, the remaining equity is the difference. And then your opening balance is always equal to your closing balance. That's the one thing I hope people know. And Hetty puts that little thing here to do this. It's kind of nice, I guess. And then this is the big statement, the minimum of either the remaining amount we have or the funding needs. And after you've done it about 1,000 times, it really gets easy. Okay, and then you, let's press Shift Control W, Shift Control R, and what happens is you can see, well, okay, oops, here's some, oh, what happened here? Just a minute. Oh, we had the equity. We used up all our equity in the very first period. Perhaps, no, I was going to change the S curve. Let's not do that. That's the real issue. And then let's put the debt draws. Now it is totally possible, and that's happened to me. It's totally possible. Total debt draws. If you have, for example, an Ex-Im bank, the manner in which they draw down the debt can be different for different issuers. For right now, I'm just going to assume it's all the same. If we would put some different drawdown kind of rules in here, okay, things could get a little more complicated, but it's basically the total funding needs we have minus the amount of equity we've already put in. That's our total debt draws. Okay, now this is our total debt draws if we use equity first. Now if instead we put, how did I do this? Let's put pro rata equity, and then pro rata debt. Now, if you do this, if the bank is going to say, okay, you can put pro rata in, which means instead of putting all our equity up first, we do it, on an even basis. Most people listening to this video would know that kind of how it works, or you could imagine how it works. The bank is going to say, look, you promised to put this equity in, and you've got to have a credit card. You've got to have a credit card with a balance, with a big enough balance that says, I can get this money whenever I want, no matter what. And I'm going to have to pay a fee for that credit card. And that's called an LC fee. And that's the way I think about it. And I'm sorry if it's a little simplistic. Now, if we do this one, this time I'm going to put our percentages in. And because we did our summary thing up here, we can put the equity balance, I hope, as a percentage of the total. Now, it's kind of a little bit off, isn't it? Because these are a percentage of the debt. Oh, God, I don't know. Maybe we'll move these over here. Okay, is that a little better? See, I'm practicing some of this stuff kind of for the first time a little bit because I hate the concept of putting all this crap in is so bad. But then we, again, get that from upstairs. And how, yeah, I just, okay, you don't have to do it. You could put all of these things like in a little sum column, and you could do this in two different pages and all that. And my question is why? So if we do this, then we just take our number from over on the side and multiply that by the funding needs. And we do this, the same thing here. And then we've got it done. And it's not that hard. And the first kind of times I do this, I was a struggle like you can't believe. I remember the first time in Lotus and all that. Whoops. Okay. There's our funding needs. And now we could put equity, final equity funding or something like that. And final debt funding. See, I don't know why, okay, maybe if I have no idea. Some people have screamed at me, and we're going to put a flag here for our constant units, and our flag is going to be if it's pro rata, okay, and that's up here, and that came here, so we can use a little toggle and switch this, but then press that reset and do it. So this is flag. I'm going to put EQ first. Okay, so how about that? Oops. And how about let's press F2, F4, and Control D. And then we can say, well, if it's oops, okay. If they have to be the same. If it's equity first, then we'll put in our equity first draw. Otherwise, we'll put in our pro rata. And we'll do the same sort of thing for the next one. Whoops. Oh, come on. The same sort of thing for the next one. If it's the equity first, then we take our debt draws from here. Otherwise, we take the pro rata debt draws. Okay, and then we're finished. We've got these things done. What happens if we just a minute? If I press Shift Control E and Shift Control E, should I do that twice? I don't know. That's kind of whatever. I don't know about this underlining anymore. Okay, now once we have this, we're going to put the balances in, and I'm going to put the balances in. Actually, let's put the funding for the balances. So let's excuse me for doing this, and you can see the. So we've got debt 1, debt 2, debt 3, debt 4. Instead of doing that, why didn't I just use this stuff? Okay. Now Hetty, she would have directly linked it and colored it. And we could find. Okay, I think this is a little bit of a different format. When you use your generic macros, you can reformat each sheet and make sure they're consistent. And so how about whoops? Oh, how about this? I'll put this. I'll do this and put a little and sign and whoops. Fund it. Okay, like I said, I have run in. I'm doing real models. I'm not just some ridiculous theoretician. Okay, and then, like I said, the EXIM funding will be different from some other grant funding and some other. So you can have a lot more complicated structure. But for me, the key thing is to set up this remaining equity and not be chintzy with, oh, we can't have that many lines. Screw it. Just get the, we're not gonna have that many lines here, even though there are all these different debt issues. And then let's get the percents for the different issues. Okay, we can. I suppose it's probably a little bit better practice. Maybe some auditors would yell at you or something like this if we take it directly from the inputs. Okay, so we can take our total debt funding and let's press F4 a couple of times and multiply this one and press F4 a few times. Okay, and Control D, Shift Control R, and then we've got our funding by for each issue. Not that hard. So if we have a bunch of different debt issues, don't be that intimidated. And now I'm going to put in our debt balances. Okay. Now, to get this is the key thing. Now this is really what I kind of want to do is I'm going to put for each of these issues, I'm going to put the repayment. And that debt repayment, that's by far the hardest thing to get. Oh, no. Okay. And here's the way my vision. Okay. And I'm going to have other videos that really go through this. But these debt issues, excuse me, come on, these repayments, I'm going to get them directly. Stop it, come on. Oh, damn. Okay, I'm going to get this thing here. I'm going to get this. And I'm going to put this, and we keep the timeline all carefully structured, I hope. And I'm going to put this directly from this thing called the UDF output. And when I put this from the UDF output, okay, right up here, okay, and now, it's not going to balance right away. Because, well, it might. Oops, Shift Control V for Victor. Okay, we've got those numbers in. Now, this is going to be a really key thing to test. I should have maybe put an extra column in here for our tests. And we better make sure that the amount we repay is the same as the amount we borrow. Okay, and so this looks good right now, but I haven't put any of the fees in and everything else, and we have some funding coming in now. I'm gonna just cheat just for a minute because I noticed that kind of bad thing. I'm going to for the restructuring, just a minute. Input C for the structuring case. I'm going to put all of the debt to have the same tenor just to get started. And I did this really badly. I need to show you how to do this. Now, that was interesting. What just happened is that if I need to, I'm turning the UDF off. And when I turn the UDF off here, okay, then, and maybe I can just turn it on one time, and it's going to run all of these, and it's going to give me a different repayment structure, okay? And so right now, all of the issues are the same. And before, and I didn't want to get into the kind of a little bit complexities when we start changing the tenor of one debt issue versus another, you get into some very, very tricky issues. so that you can repay the debt all at the same time, and the aggregate debt service coverage is the same. So we're going to get into all of that, but not in this one. Okay, and so here's a so that's I'll call this one our debt repayment. Okay, balance. No, I'll call it balance and repayment. And now we can go through kind of issue by issue. So let's take the first one. Let's take the whoever this is, and then we put an opening or whatever, beginning, whatever you want to call it, or brought forward, and add the draws less the repayments and the closing balance, and then the interest. How about I'll put the interest rate and the interest cost, and then I'm going to put the interest during construction and the interest, some people call it during operation, I just call it interest expense, because that's the accounting, because it all this is accounting. Okay, how about I'll split a line here, and you can see maybe, okay, why am I wasting time with this? I'm going to do one of them, and then for the rest of them, I'm going to turn off the video, and we'll just, so that would just be too ridiculous. So let's just make the opening balance equal to the closing balance. Now, if you're saying, that repayment crap you did was kind of unfair, look, for funding, you could have basically left the repayment out just for now and just focused on the upfront fees and the commitment fees. Okay, so for now, please bear with me, and please understand that there was nothing special at all at this point about putting this UDF in it. Okay, and then we put our opening balance plus the draws minus the repayment. Okay, and we have it all set up, and eventually the debt balance goes up, and eventually we pay off the debt. That's really good that we did that. Now, just to give you a warning, we're going to have some circular references, and the repayments won't match at first. Now for the interest rate, let's just use our lookup again. And how did I do this? Just a minute. How did I put the interest rate in? Okay, God. Oh, God, this is horrible. Okay, we put our final interest rate down here, and we just put this should just be model period. Okay, not the operating period. And see, this one, because it's structuring, it did it, and I need to switch this thing to turn off the UDF, so I'm not doing it, and I'm whatever. Well, oh shit. Just a minute. Okay. I've got to pause. Okay, I cheated a little bit. I'm going to fix this. I had to put an if error, if is number. Now, on the interest rate, let's use our lookup. Okay, and let's look up. I put a period code in the top here. It wasn't in just before. And then we go to our input S, and we get our model period, and we get our interest rate for the first issue that was applied. That's using an index function, or no, a choose, excuse me, a choose function. Okay, and this is very real, kind of how you set up this multiple interest rates is going to be a little tricky. And then we take this opening, this number and multiply it by the opening balance. And then we take this number and multiply it by the construction period to get the interest during the construction period. And you can take the total minus that, and you can get the interest after the construction period. And that's how we're going to set up everything. Now, somewhere perhaps, I'm debating this. Well, let's just put a up kind of here. Let's put a financial close flag. Okay, and I know that's kind of silly, but let's just put it here, and this is going to be a date, and we'll get the very first period. That's our financial close period. And oh, that's our COD date. I didn't even put a financial close date in. I've got to kind of cheat, and it's just really bad. Let's use the beginning of the period, and then just put an equal sign. This is kind of, it's silly, I know. No F4s there. Sorry, equal this one, and then if you press Shift alternate F, you should get it to be a 1 instead of a. That was okay, and then so now let's put our upfront fee. And to get this time we might kind of have two things that we're going to use. Let's put a percentage here. So let's get our upfront fee for this debt issue. Okay, so this is all kind of very standard, and I'm just about to get into the and then let's go up here and get our total debt amount. Okay, and then let's just press F4, whoops, F4 times F4. Maybe this time I should have really used the F4 3 times, you know, and maybe this the F4 twice. Let's fix that one, because for all of this kind of stuff, we're going to have to redo these, and we don't want to, you know, have to retype all the formulas in. And then let's get our commitment fee. And to get our commitment fee, let's put the undrawn balance. All of this stuff, you know, I remember the first times you did it. It's such a pain. And again, let's put this, just get the total balance of our debt, and take the total balance of our debt. Maybe I'll press the F4 a few times, minus the opening balance. Okay, and that's the amount we have not drawn. And then we'll put our periodic commitment fee. Now, I'm not going to go into this 360-day business. I hate all that stuff. Let's put percent. And so let's just take this commitment fee for our issue, which I cheated during the pause of the video and put it in, so that's not why it's not colored. We're going to take this one. Okay, and let's, how about we'll divide it by 12 here, okay, or the number of months, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you should put the number of months, and then we can, we can put this number, multiply it by this, but then also multiply it by the construction period, which is nice that we have that one up at the top. And so there's our commitment fee, and it goes away. And then now we go backwards and we'll do this issue by issue. We could accumulate them, and I was sitting here during the pause thinking, should I bother with all this? And this is the interest during construction. We really should put it. How about I'll do that? I'll put the names in there. But we go down and we get the interest during construction. Okay, so this is just, for me, this is very boring and kind of basic, but I totally understand from the people in the that class that whatever it was, the Redcliffe horror, that I understand why you'd want to, you know, practice this yourself. Okay, oops. Now, why did I get a circular reference on that? Just a minute. Uh, just a minute. That was the upfront fee, and oh, okay. So we did get a circular reference. And um, uh, uh, if we would have been able to copy and paste these, we would have solved this circular reference. But I've got to pause for a second. That's what I've got to do and think about it for 1 second. So I had a mistake. Okay. Oh, this number should have always come from way up in our summary statement. Then we don't get a circular reference right away for this. Okay. We will in a minute. Just wait. So there's our upfront fee. Okay. Now let's fill in the commitment fee. Okay. Let's put that one in. And hopefully we won't get one again, unless, yes, I will, because this one was incorrect. For now, I'll put that in, and then I'll fix that. But the idea was, I made a mistake here, and it's getting late. It's past my bedtime. So this comes from this number way up here, and then we don't get a circular reference. Or did we? It looked like there was a... What was that little arrow that I just saw? Okay, I don't think we have one. Okay, it almost doesn't matter if we do. And then we're excuse me. Ah, okay, so then I'm going to copy this across. Okay, there's our little commitment fee. I should be consistent with the decimals. Okay, and then let's do this. Let's copy this this summary all the way down. Whoops, what did I just do? Uh, uh, Shift Control V. Shift Control V. I've got to redo some of these names. That's all okay, but once we go one step above here, and once we put in the interest during construction from down here, I expect we'll get a circular reference. We might not do it until we put the funding in, but we will, okay? So instead of this, don't put it here. Then we'll make our copy and paste, and this will be the applied. And then we need a fixed column, and we're just gonna, and we'll make, how about, because we have that funny size, let's make a computed column, and we could also we could also get a UDF column. Okay. Now I'm going to try to do this. I hope so. I'm going to make our kind of UDF method the third method, and I'm going to do that at the end. So when we go to our interest during construction for the first one, instead of that, I just saw a little thing there that was kind of funny. And then we put the upfront fee in as well. Okay, and I hope I took it from this one. Did I might have taken interest during construction. That was from J, column J. This was from column J. And then I take my upfront fee. And I'm not going to deal with the debt service reserve account until a little bit later because I'm going to use a letter of credit for the debt service reserve account in this example because that's getting to be almost a universal. Okay, so did I take the wrong thing for the upfront fee? Of course I did. Okay, that comes from the sum. Okay, and then what's going to happen is I'm going to take these two columns, select all the way down, and press Shift Control F3. And that's going to name a range called fix and computed. And I might have it somewhere else, but it doesn't even matter if it's in another sheet. Okay, and if you, that was Shift Control F3. If you press Control F3, you can get a list. And you see I do have fixed and computed one in this page, which is called the structuring model, and that's just in this page and in this page. And it doesn't matter if you have, I guess, two of them, as long as in this macro we call it from this page. So I guess that does matter. So why don't I put, I'm going to call it fixed S for structuring page, computed S, and I'm going to redo this range name. Shift Control F3. I think that's a lot safer way to do it. So Control F3, and then we can take this computed in this structuring model. Let's get rid of that one. And let's take the fixed in the structuring model. Did I delete the right one? I hope I did. Computed and debt structure. The names are horrible here, aren't they? So now we have a computed S, a computed C, and all you do, and why in the heck, just this thing that says automatic sculpting, where that should have been long gone. That should have never been there. Let's put a little copy and paste macro here, and let's make and let's just do this and right click, go to assign macro and edit. This is going to be a new one. And all we do is we put while, do while, and you put a little thing difference. How about diff S? We'll call that, and then put a dot value, and then put not equal to 0, and then you put it's always the fixed S dot value equal put a little thing here, computed S, close it, dot value, and then you put loop. And the way you think about this, you have to, now let's make a difference. So let's put our, how about we'll put we'll move our UDF over here and put our difference. Sorry about my typing, really. I'm gonna do something that yeah, okay. Yeah, I get obsessed with this stupid stuff. Maybe some psychological problems. Let's make them all wider instead of just one. And take the difference between the fixed and the computed, and it doesn't matter which way we go. And we go all the way down, and we put a sum of all this, and we call that diff_s. Is that what I called it? I think. Shift Control F3. Let's just see if I called it diff_s. I did. I did. Okay. And now let's run it. You can run it here, or we could run it from the button. And then when we run it from here, we get all our numbers. Now, we're not finished. We're not finished. Okay. And then we take our applied number, which is going to drive the total, which is going to drive the 80%, which is going to drive all of these numbers. And all of these numbers are then going to drive everything else. Now, if we got these numbers from the UDF, we wouldn't have a problem. That's what my theory is going to be, and we could do all the rest of the calculation. Now, before I, well, that's why I'm making this video in a way. Oh, it's not funny. That wasn't really not funny at all. Okay, and then we put all of our numbers here. Okay, now we get a difference again, and all we have to do is rerun that. Okay, it didn't take very long at all, and it doesn't take long at all. It shouldn't. You shouldn't have a major problem with these copy and paste things. It's the speed is an issue. I have to make sure that speed is okay. When you get into the sculpting, it's going to be a little different. Now, what I'm going to do is turn off the video and just fill in the other ones, and then I'll switch the video back on, and then I'll be finished with our funding analysis. And when I make some of the other videos on the cash flow waterfall, I'm going to do the same sort of introduction on structuring versus risk analysis, and then we'll make a third video that really puts it all together, I hope. Okay, and so I actually made this video a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't finish it. This is the finishing part of it. And I added a flag because in the next few videos, I'm going to show you how to apply realistically and coolly and awesomely apply our UDF method. Okay, but in the meantime, let's finish this. So what I had done is I had used the generic macros, blah, 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 here's our fixed and our computed. And remember, if you press Control and this square bracket, I know you're sick of me talking about this if you've got it to this stage of the video, which would be absolutely remarkable. These are the sums. And then if you press F2, you can see the sums. And remember, that's the only rule there should be. And then if you press F5, can we get back? Yes, we can get back. So each of these has a sum. And by the way, when I did this, I made errors. So these are the upfront fees and the interest during construction for all of our different debt things. It isn't that complicated. It's just like repetitive, doing it over and over and over again. We get the total funding needs. We see how much is coming from each debt issue. We work through each debt issue, and for each debt issue, we get an opening and a closing balance, and we get our upfront fee and our commitment fee, and I've already done that. And then you select this. Remember, these two are range names. And if you select this, you can, no, you can't. You can only do it, you can only do it once. Did I start here this time? Shoot. Well, then we'll press Control F3. If we compute, this is called, what is it called? Oh no, it's called fixed S, computed S. And if we click on that one, oh, it went down a little further. Okay, whatever. We made those range names. And then all we did was we made a macro that says fixed S equals computed S, and we put dot value. So we put fixed S, and to make it a range name, I'm just doing this again because I don't want you to be all thrilled with the regular old copy paste, and you put dot value equals value equals computed, and we put our little brackets. That means it's a range name underscore s dot value. And around that, we do it until the difference S, here I guess S must mean the structuring, until that difference. So we put do while, and we put a little bracket diff underscore S dot value, and it's almost not equal to 0, and then at the very end you put loop. Or you can do it with a for next loop, or you can do it with a while loop and put w end. If you do it like this, you have that. Okay, I'll leave that here. That's how easy it is. And then let's just trace what happened, really. Well, the debt came from this, and all of these costs now are from the fixed lines. Again, if you press Control U, you can see they come from the fixed lines. Okay, and let's remind ourselves, if you have a lookup function here and you press Control U, you got nothing. Oh, how sucko is that? It just gives you the top one. But if you have generic macros open and you want to steal the code, fine. And then you press alternate U, it gives you the data, and then you press F5 and go back. And that works with the SUMIF and the index, because that control square bracket is so important. And I'm maybe digressing a little bit, but we've got all of this built. And now let's say we want to change something. I'm going to manually change it. Let's say this changes to 90%. We have to change this back. And then I must have my formulas set to be, no, I have that. Oh, no, excuse me. This is supposed to be true. Excuse me. Okay, then we get these differences, and we right click. We go to assign macro. We go to edit, and here's the simple little copy and paste macro again, and then you click on the copy and paste, and it's taking a tiny bit of time and not doing it. Now, just to give you a preview, ooh, this is the coolest thing ever. Okay, I don't think I can go back here, so I think I have to get my debt to capital from this line. Just a minute. Oh, no. Oh, I even screwed up more. I'm going to change this to false, which means everything is going to come from a user-defined UDF function. And instead of even giving one crap about that right now, we're going to say, well, if we're using a copy-paste, that's here. I just put a flag in here, and you don't have to worry about this flag. If we're using a copy paste, let's go to our inputs, and I hope you remember that we have this. Otherwise, let's go to our structuring model and take our debt that we computed divided by the project cost, okay? So right now it's 80%. Now if I press, oops, what did I just do? Oh, then we'd have to, I changed it to 80, so we would have to run the copy and paste again. You have to do it each time. Now it's a little bit longer now, just a tiny bit, but we're going to have a copy and paste for our reserve account. We're going to have a copy and paste for our taxes. If we had a big, clumsy old clunker model, it would take a lot longer to copy paste. Trust me. Trust me, trust me, trust me. I was just yelling at myself because, of course, when I do my real analysis, I use the copy paste, this method. Now, if we put false in here, this is just a preview. Now, in this case, all of our numbers come from a special little user-defined function that you don't have to care about right now. You do not have to care, but it's only got 4 things. It's got the repayment of each debt, and it's got some inputs that you have to do. You have to get these inputs, and these blue numbers really come from the other sheet. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of coloring on this. Okay, and then we can change all of these methods and get all the different kind of debt to capital in here, and the numbers that come from the UDF are this number, only this number. Now when you do it, oh, it took a little bit of time. Oh no. But then we get our P50 analysis. Then we had 76% debt, and it carries through. Everything is computed, and everything is computed correctly. And if you don't believe me, well, look at it yourself, but I'm going to have another video. So that's P50 debt sizing, but if I want a curved debt analysis and keep the debt sizing constant, then I get I'm getting 79%. I'm purposely not getting exactly 80%, and I've got a whole different kind of repayment. And let's just show you what that all means and where the implications are. So if I go back and say, here's the way I did this. I said, okay, let's take kind of a European project that has a pretty low project IRR. And in that case, we're going to size the debt based on the DSCR. So the DSCR is 1.3. We held a flat DSCR. We have multiple debt issues, and that's not easy to do. It's simply not easy to do, and particularly when these change and you've got to figure out which is the flexible debt issue, okay? And now all of that crap, all of that circular reference, you didn't have to run a copy and paste button or anything else. And now if we change this to P90, well, we're going to lower the light blue line, okay, and we're going to redo the debt sizing. And we don't have to redo anything. And then if I change that to P99 and I put a 1.0 times DSCR against the P99, well, it works. And then if I put debt to capital in, and this time I don't know if you looked at the project IRR, we have a different number. Okay. And in the next video, I'm going to get into a touch more detail on how this works. And I'm not going to get into any technical crap, I promise. And I'm not going to go back and get obsessed about the UDF again. Hetty really is the best. If she didn't push me, I would have never done any of this crap, I tell you. Okay, but I hope you can see it's starting to be effective, because then we can take this analysis, and now let's look at this. This is a 16% IRR with a 10% project IRR, and you can look around at this model. And now if I change the thing and I put a curved, you notice here it says debt sizing method, debt to capital. This time I'm putting a curve. Now there's a little bit of a goal seek that's occurring here, and that's why, and you can see I'm allowing more dividends at the beginning and less at the end, and I push up my equity IRR to 19%. Okay, and part of that's a distortion in the IRR. I have to kind of admit that. And then, but that's what everybody uses, so let's use that. And then if I do the same thing with a P90, well, now I'm going to get a lower project IRR, because that's a project IRR using the P90. Okay, or in this case, yeah, I think it was P90. And it all works just like that. You could even start changing the DSCR, changing the sculpting method. You could kind of do all of that stuff yourself. And there's no button. Okay, big deal, no button. But it works quickly. And that's what it's taken us so long to do. 2 things. Make sure it's easy to use. It's not complicated to use. You don't have to program any VBA or anything like that. Well, if you get really advanced, you could if you wanted. Let me say it like that. And So it's easy to use and it's quick. And that's the end of this video, but it's leading really into the next one. Okay, so that's that.